Brandt DXT grain carts have efficient unload speeds, large carrying capacities, unmatched durability, and reliable components that make sure your cart is working when you are. Lead the field with DXT grain carts from Brandt. Visit your local Brandt dealer for more information.
I'm Shaun Haney, and this is RealAg on the Weekend. Let's get real and get connected with the week that was in Canadian agriculture. RealAg on the Weekend starts now. Welcome to RealAg on the Weekend. I'm your host, Shaun Haney of RealAgriculture.com. It's great to be with you here for this episode of the show. Hopefully you had yourself a great week. I had a fantastic time in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan this week for Ag in Motion, and I got to connect with so many fans of this show. I really just really appreciate everybody walking up and saying hello, chatting for a bit, giving me a bit of an update on how their crops are looking. And, I think the basis is that we're looking a lot better than we were, say, a month ago. Now, we don't have like a bumper crop out there for the most part, but we're in much better shape yield-wise, potentially, than we were a month ago. Rains have really helped. They've definitely played a part in us feeling a little bit better about some of the crops that we have out in our field. The old weather lottery continues for many of us. And there are some poor pockets, especially in that southwest corner. I heard about that from some growers as well. But I just wish the markets would cooperate a little bit at the same time as well. That would really lift our spirits indeed. And it was also great on Wednesday to be on the Evan Bray show. Yes, it was really fantastic on the Royal Co Radio Network. Really appreciate Evan having me over there at the Co-op building. We had a great time, chatted about a lot of different stuff. It was really fantastic. So really appreciate everybody that I was able to connect with there at Ag in Motion for a couple days, and kind of really nice weather, kind of just the right temperature for many people that were in attendance. And there was a lot of them, I believe. And it was for a lot of farmers across the prairies, definitely an opportunity to connect and see some of the latest and greatest in technology and a whole bunch of other stuff as well. Well, today on the program, we're going to hear from Derek Penner. He is the new CEO of Genesis Fertilizer. Now, this is at Belle Plaine, an attempt to build a new fertilizer production facility, looking for farmer investment, and it's been a bit of a rocky period at Genesis Fertilizer with Jason Mann stepping down as the CEO. That had to do with some of the stuff that was happening over there at Agri City and some of their inability to deliver product. Jason steps down and Derek Penner steps up. He's the former head of Monsanto Canada, and he has some history a little bit with this project. So we'll get an update from him and see what the future lies for the construction of this massive facility in Saskatchewan, a new player on the fertilizer front. We'll also hear from Keith Currie. He is with the CFA. He's going to talk about some of those midsummer meetings that happened this week in Winnipeg. And then we've got Dr. Mark Redmond, who is the CEO of RDAR. And in partnership with Farm Credit Canada, they've developed a new AI tool called Root. And we'll hear all about that today on the program as well. If you have any feedback, send me an email, shaney@realagriculture.com. You can also call the RealAg feedback line, 855-776-6147. Joining us right now is the new CEO of Genesis Fertilizers. It is Derek Penner. Derek, great to have you on the show.
Hey, thanks, Shaun. Thanks for having me, and appreciate getting some time with you to talk about some of the questions you're going to be asking me today.
Yeah, so let's get to it. A bit of I'll say a rocky time. The former CEO, Jason Mann, really spearheaded this project due to some of the issues with Agri City, stepped down, and you enter the fray. But you have some history with this project. Is that correct?
Yeah, I've been involved in some shape or form with this project probably for the last 8 years. I've been working, I've worked with Jason to put together, I'll call it investor presentations, to try to look at strategics, putting a lot of the farmer presentations together, looking at the fundamentals of the project, some of the financials of why this was feasible or not, working with some of the partners that we had in place. Like we did a lot of work with Stantec, BMO Capital Markets at the time, some of the law firms, and so we put a lot of effort into this. So I have a bit of a background and knowledge of why this project makes a lot of sense.
And your career, you've been in the ag space before, a lot of time, obviously in the M&A space, but you do have some ag background, former head of Monsanto Canada, going back a decade ago. Like you said, you've been around this project, but your history or your specialty is finance, in particular in the M&A side of the equation.
Yeah. So, even at Monsanto, I held some pretty interesting roles there. Like you said, I was the head of Canada for the last couple of years of my career with Monsanto. But prior to that, I was heading up our Europe, Middle East, Africa region in our strategy, licensing, and product management area. And that was what I would call a big kind of M&A type role, merger, acquisition, divestitures, and in fact even restructuring. That hopefully doesn't have a play in here, but M&A is like a foundation for a project like this. When you think about aligning with capital investment and high risk areas such as where we're at with the feed, the front end engineering design, it takes a lot of financial discipline and strategic alignment and getting credible external partnerships in place to secure all this long term. So I think when I think about M&A, it's like if you go to somebody who wants to sell their business one day and you talk about the journey of going to the market and marketing your business and meeting with potential prospective investors and trying to keep this all kind of tight-lipped and anonymous, you're really doing the same thing as what we're doing here at Genesis. It's almost like the bit of the reverse though. Like we're marketing this project to, I'll call it grassroots farmer investors across Canada.
What are some of your immediate priorities?
Oh, well, I would say that the biggest one is securing the feed completion and advancing towards final investment decision. I mean, as a lot of people already know, we signed a number of agreements to support the feed, which is the front end engineering design work. The group that's executing on the feed is Daelim out of South Korea. They're working diligently with the technology providers, which include ThyssenKrupp, Ude Fertilizer Technologies, Stami Carbon. Those groups are out of Europe, and then Carbon Co on the carbon capture side, which is a sister company of DL. And so, to me, it's securing that and getting that in place to understand what the true cost of capital will be to move this project into FID. So that would be number one. Number two is strengthening our capital strategy and investor engagement. As you can imagine, this is it's not a typical project where you're going out to a bunch of institutional investors and getting them. We're trying to make this a massive grassroots project. And to date, I don't know the exact numbers because it's only been a couple of days, but I believe we have close to 700 farmer investors, and we need a lot more than 700 farmer investors, not only to bolster up the path towards feed and FID, but also to support the offtake component, which is an extremely important component when we talk about final investment decision, going to lenders and trying to secure financing for the construction of the project.
We're talking to Derek Penner, who is the new CEO of Genesis Fertilizer. We're going to continue the conversation. When we come back, we're going to take a very quick break. But remember, still coming up, Keith Currie from CFA, as well as Mark Redmond, who is with RDAR out of Alberta. You're listening to RealAg on the Weekend. We're back right after this very quick break.
Crush it with Maizex canola. Maizex Seeds is 100% focused on Canadian farmers. Your source for high-performance grain, silage, and grazing corn, as well as soybeans and, new for 2026, canola. Visit Maizex.com to find your local Maizex representative.
Hi, I'm Bernard Tobin, host of the Soybean School on RealAgriculture.com. Throughout the year, on the Soybean School, we'll bring you timely agronomic video content from planting to harvest, from the latest agronomic research to the latest in production technology. Check out our massive video library on YouTube, RealAgriculture.com, or download the audio podcast versions wherever you get your podcasts. The Soybean School is brought to you by Maizex Seeds and Lalamon Plant Care.
If you're serious about agriculture, RealAg's got you covered.
For over 10 years, we've listened to and shared what producers have to say about everything from policy to agronomy from coast to coast.
Keep up with the latest in Canadian agriculture at RealAgriculture.com through daily newsletters and check out our YouTube channel.
Thanks for joining us in the RealAg community as we continue to cover and serve North American agriculture.
If you're involved in the agriculture industry, it's important to stay informed on all the latest issues affecting your business. At RealAgriculture.com, we offer fast, reliable news, information, and insights to help you keep on top of all of the latest in Canadian agriculture. Visit RealAgriculture.com and sign up for our free daily newsletter covering everything from news, agronomy, animal agriculture, and much more. Visit RealAgriculture.com/subscribe today.
Let's continue my conversation with the new CEO of Genesis Fertilizer, an attempt to build a new nitrogen production facility in Belle Plaine, Saskatchewan. Let's continue the conversation. Let's hit on that a little bit more. So 700 current investors still looking for more. There is a capital gap here, especially on that farmer offtake side. Why is that offtake important?
Yeah, so when you talk about bringing in strategic operators or strategic partners into the fold, and I want to circle back and say our objective is to try to make this farmer owned and majority owned, and so but we're going to need an operator, we're going to need a strategic investor because that brings a lot of clout to the project outside of that. But the offtake is really important because when you go and start speaking to lenders, and like a project of this size, is you're not just speaking to one lender, you're going to speak to a primary lender, and they're going to bring in a syndicate. The offtake is important because it creates that what we call that closed loop system. And so when they're looking at financing the project, they're looking at the capital, they're looking at the equity that's been put into the project, and then they're saying, okay, how do we know that the product that's going to be outputted from the business is going to be sold? Well, if you have 1,000 farmers or 2,000 farmers, and they're going to take 700,000 tons of the project, you're almost guaranteeing the sale of the product. So it's like that. I don't know if you hear this a lot in the market, but it's that whole recurring revenue or subscription base. They're locked in. So that is extremely important to not only industry partners but also lenders.
Your background is here, so I'll go there. Is who is controlling interest of Genesis? Because that's a question that comes up a lot. I was at Ag in Motion this week, and that's a question the audience asked me a lot, and so I thought I'd ask you. Yeah.
So the way that the organization or the Genesis is structured is it's structured under a general partnership, limited partnership model. The farmers who've invested to date are investing in the limited partnership. That's the entity that holds all the assets. The general partner is the partner is the entity where I call it the management, the support services, the board of directors sits that do the work on behalf of the limited partners to keep the limited partners away so that they can get the benefits of the distribution of eventually the profits, but to date is the cost that will be flowing through to them. So they've instilled on effectively the general partner to manage the project, but they also have the ability to participate in that through limited partnership meetings.
For farmers that haven't invested yet, why? Why should they change their mind, and why should they be contacting you to get involved?
Yeah, I mean, I want to say, like, I've been in business for forever. I've run big companies. I've seen what happens around the world. I understand global market demands and dynamics. And when I look at this project, I don't know, like the fundamentals around it are incredible. I was speaking to a very large farmer in Saskatchewan who's not invested in the project on Tuesday night before I signed the agreement. I just called him up out of the blue. The individual gave me 30 minutes of his time. I've never met the guy in my life. He explained to me what his perception was, and I don't know if to be honest with you, I don't know if farmers really truly understand the fundamentals of this project and how good they are. And I want to reflect back on when I was initially looking at this project back in 2016, and there's a market report out there called Green Markets, and they provide, you're able to garner, if you pay for a membership there, the average farm gate price of fertilizer, and they have all the history. And when I was looking at those numbers, and again, I don't know what's said, but when I was looking at those numbers alone, the average farm gate price to a farmer was around $524 a ton for the last 30 years. 30 years of data, it didn't change. 1975 or 2005, it was same price. If I look at what has transpired over the last 4 or 5 years, and you probably know a lot more than I do on this one, but the price is not $550 anymore. Mm-hmm. The price is, like today or yesterday, I just heard someone, well, actually it was in our town or meeting at the Sheraton the other night. A farmer came up and said he had the buy price at $815 a ton for pickup in December. This is this should be the lowest point in the season. So what's your fertilizer price going to be in the next few months? And so when you look at that, the sales price has gone way up, but the cost of production has stayed the same. There's been no real change in the cost of production. And so I don't think that farmers really understand how much profit is sitting between the manufacturer and the wholesale. And I think that is, like, for me, is the number one reason. And if farmers want to control their input prices and create more efficient farms and more profitable farms, one of the largest costs on their farm is fertilizer. You know, it makes a lot of sense.
Is Jason Mann, the former CEO, is he connected to the project anymore at all, or give us an update there? Well,
because it's just been 2 days, there's got to be a transition there.
Yeah, fair.
You know, like Jason, you know, through all the challenges that have been faced over the last few months with him, he also had, you know, brought a great vision to the project and a great project to the table, and expended a lot of effort to get there. And he has a lot of knowledge that we need to get out of his head as we transition to this. Today, as far as operations in the business, he is still a director. He is part of the team, but we have 3 independent board directors plus myself now on the board. So we're moving towards having what I would say is a professionally managed organization, and not what some people might consider that whole cowboy mentality.
What are the next milestones? What does, we're just a little bit over halfway through 2025. As you said, there's some work being done on a number of different lanes here, trying to get this project to, hey, we're investable and this is going to happen. And there's spades being put in the ground. What are the next milestones?
So on what I would call a macro level, I would say is securing the feed completion. Like, you said that you asked me what my priority was over the next 6 to 12 months. That's really it. I mean, we need to get this feed done. We need to understand what the cost of capital is to be able to do this. And we need to raise more money, plain and simple. So to me, it's number one priority is getting out there and getting investor engagement, both on the strategic side and the farmer side. And my preferences would be on the farmer side. I prefer to bring in strategics much later in the process to give the farmers a bit of leverage as we move forward past feed.
Are you confident that this project can and will be built?
I'm confident if the farmers come to the table that it can be, yes.
That was Derek Penner, new CEO of Genesis Fertilizer. Hopefully we got down to some of the key questions that you have as farmers on the Western Canadian prairies. There's been a lot of talk about this project, and some believe in it very solidly, and some have real questions. So hopefully some of your questions were answered there. Let's take a break. We'll be back with more of RealAg on the Weekend right after this quick break.
FP Genetics brings new seed genetics to Canadian farms, empowering growers to thrive in ever-changing conditions. Join thousands of Canadian growers who trust FP Genetics to deliver innovative, reliable hybrid fall rye seed season after season. Experience the next wave by visiting fpgenetics.ca.
RealAg Radio is Canada's only daily radio show focused on agriculture. Get expert advice on Agronomic Monday. Tuesdays and Wednesdays will cover a broad range of issues. Thursday we'll hear from farmers across the country on the Farmer Rapid Fire. And we'll wrap things up Fridays with the RealAg Issues panel with Kelvin Hepner and Lindsay Smith. Join us Monday through Friday at 4:30 Eastern. And don't forget about the replay at 7 in the morning on Rural Radio 147, Sirius XM. Get all the information you need to keep your pulse crop healthy and profitable with the Pulse School on RealAgriculture.com. The Pulse School is a free YouTube video series covering agronomy, research, and more across a host of different pulse crops. It's also available as an audio podcast wherever you download or stream your favorite podcast. Check us out on YouTube or visit RealAgriculture.com. The Pulse School, brought to you by BSF Canada. This week in Winnipeg was the CFA Roundtable. Now, this is usually connected to the FPT meeting, which was delayed because of some of the forest fire situations in Manitoba. Now, the ministers got on a call, a short one. They are going to be meeting in early September, but the CFA Roundtable still went on. Kelvin Hepner of RealAgriculture had a chance to catch up with the chair of the CFA, Mr. Keith Currie. Here's a portion of that conversation.
Keith, when it comes to this summer meeting, give us a taste of some of the things that are top priorities for the CFA board and membership at a meeting like this?
Yeah, so typically we host our summer board meetings in conjunction with the federal, provincial, territorial ministers' meetings. Unfortunately, they canceled because of the situation here in Manitoba and the wildfires. But we continued on with our meetings, and really excited this year. We have a new format of panel discussions, but we're going to have a policy roundtable session in the afternoon. The original intent was to have the ministers join at tables, and that way they could hear discussion on what really is important to agriculture producers and the agriculture industry, like up front from all of the members and the guests that are here. We're still going forward with that, even though the ministers aren't here, and we're hoping to have very fruitful discussions so that we can then summarize, the key points of those discussions to take back to the ministers when they do meet in September. So I expect we'll hear from the usual things like infrastructure investment, red tape reduction, business risk management programs. Really, how do we get the economy going, and how do we seize the opportunities for agriculture going forward? Mm-hmm.
You refer to those as the usual things. From agriculture's perspective, they might be, but it seems like we've seen a shift in government priorities as well. Would you say that maybe there's more alignment now between some of the things that CFA and your stakeholders, members would like to see, and what the government is at least talking about doing?
Yeah, I think we're encouraged by what we're hearing out of Prime Minister Currie and his team. They are really putting a focus on economic development aspects. That's what we do best in agriculture. I mean, we're all small business operators, and the more the economy is chugging, the better it is for us. I've been saying for years there's a lot of missed opportunities in agriculture, and we can complain about all the stuff in the past, but if we can focus on how do we take advantage of the opportunity that agriculture is, because it's such a vast and large industry, that we really can be even a bigger contributor to the GDP and the economy of Canada. So let's go to work and get that done.
Mm-hmm. What does that look like in terms of action items that you'd like to see the new minister at the federal level take?
Well, they've been very clear. They, as in the government, have been very clear that going forward, outside of what the campaign promises were in spending, there's not going to be any new money. But that doesn't mean that they can't do things to help our businesses function better. Regulatory modernization, whether we look into red tape reduction type of aspects. I know we all have that regulation that's frustrating because it may be counterproductive to what we do, or it may conflict with another regulation out there that really confuses us. So really bringing to the government some ways that they can modernize the regulatory framework to allow us to be a lot less restrictive on us to operate. I think that's certainly very important to all our producers, and really to the entire value chain. But also on the economic development side of things, we do need some for them to take a look at some key infrastructure investments, and whether that's also combined with the regulatory modernization, even creating the atmosphere for outside investment. So whether that's further value added, continue to grow the crushing capacity for canola, or whether that's invest in upgrading rail lines, increasing our rail capacity, better port service, better access and freer access, more convenient access at our ports, and looking at other places, other ports like Churchill. How do we upgrade the line sufficiently and the holding capacity at Churchill to really give us opportunities for another option for shipping, or upgrading Thunder Bay, for example, things like that. Let's take a look at how we can move our products better, and I think there's some opportunities there. And the other thing that we are pushing is, it doesn't cost the government any money to go support us when we're running into non-tariff trade barriers. They can really fight on our behalf to make sure that other countries uphold the agreements that we already have in place, and so let's see some fight for that. So I think there's some opportunities there where we can get our products moving, and farmers will have better market access, but also more secure market accesses.
Okay. Our new federal Minister of Agriculture, Minister McDonald, is about 2 months into the job now. I'm sure you've had a chance to interact with him several times. Your thoughts on the job that he's doing so far?
Yeah, I'm really encouraged by our conversations that I've had with Heath McDonald. He certainly is really happy to be in the role. A lot of people wondered, when he was appointed, who is this person? He's not somebody we're familiar with, but he sat around the Ag Committee table for a couple of years. He's certainly well versed in all the ag files, and I think the bonus with Minister McDonald is in his previous life he was a finance minister in PEI, so he's got the math equation skills. He understands the money part of it, so I think that's really healthy. And I know he's talking around his cabinet table about the strength of agriculture, and let's not ignore it. He's focusing on what can we do now? What are the things that we can do right now to really make our industry stronger? And I think the more we work with him and help him to understand the direction he needs to go. And also, he's eager for us to help us to start working with other ministries too, because a lot of what we do does require a whole of government focus. So I think that's where he's really keen on helping in that regard as well. So I'm looking forward to working with Minister McDonald, and he's got some of his priorities, and obviously he has to work with his government too. But I'm really encouraged to this point about what I'm hearing from the minister.
Do you think he has a window here where there's an appetite for change? I know this is maybe a statement of the broader Carney government. Canadians are open to change, but that feeling may not last forever. And is the pressure on to make some changes and kind of shake things up?
Well, I think obviously the proof has to be in the pudding. It's easy to say things. Certainly the Prime Minister, when he was campaigning, was very focused on what he was campaigning on, and his mandate letter to all the ministers focuses on that as well. But now it's time for the rubber hit the road, and I think they intentionally didn't release any kind of a budget before they rose in the summer, and I think that was to give them the opportunity to get out across Canada and talk to people and understand the kind of direction they need to go in to accomplish some of their goals. So that's why it's important for us to continue to have the conversations. That's why our meeting here is important, so that we can get the accurate feedback from our membership on what they value as us pushing forward for agenda items for the government. So that's why we'll gather all their thoughts around today, and then we can continue that conversation with Minister McDonald and other cabinet ministers and the PMO, and we'll see where it goes.
Mm-hmm. And we haven't mentioned Cody Blois, who was the chair of the House of Commons Ag Committee, also a parliamentary secretary now to the Prime Minister, which I guess is another voice for agricultural issues within this Prime Minister's circle, at least.
Yeah, well, Cody's no stranger to the agriculture world or the entire value chain, and certainly he did have his, I think it was 12 days as minister, but he was a couple of years at least as the committee chair, agriculture committee chair. He has spent a lot of time getting across the country before he got this position, but even since that position, he's across the country, and he's really, I think what he's doing is he's telling people what you can and cannot do with this government going forward, which is important to hear. Whether we like the can't part is one thing, but at least if we know where the lanes are, that's important. And the fact
that is the president of the CFA, Keith Currie. I encourage you to check out that entire interview at RealAgriculture.com. We'll be back right after this quick break.
With volatile markets and rising costs, now's your chance to be part of the solution. It's time to secure your future with Genesis Fertilizers. Gain control and ensure access to locally produced nitrogen. Act now to protect your farm's future for generations. Visit genesisfertilizers.com to learn more. The Canola School on RealAgriculture.com is a video series that showcases the latest in canola research and production agronomy. Learn from some of the best at your own pace through quick and timely producer-focused videos available on our YouTube channel. The Canola School on RealAgriculture.com is the quickest way to keep up to date on all the latest in canola production. Boost your canola IQ with the Canola School, brought to you by BASF, and visit canolaschool.com.
I'm Lindsay Smith from RealAgriculture.com. Join me Monday nights for The Agronomist, a 1-hour live and interactive show broadcast across YouTube, Facebook, and X. Monday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, I host expert agronomists from all over the country to give you answers to some of the toughest agronomic questions. Join us live or catch the replay Tuesday morning. That's The Agronomist with me, Lindsay Smith, Monday nights live at 8 p.m. Eastern.
Well, I'll talk about artificial intelligence in the industry of agriculture. A new tool was released this week. It's called Root. And Kelvin Hepner of RealAgriculture had a chance to talk to Dr. Mark Redmond, chair of RDAR. This is a partnership between RDAR and Farm Credit Canada. Find out a little bit more about this new insightful tool.
Tell us about Root, this generative AI tool that FCC and RDAR have put some work into.
Well, the heavy lifting to date has been done by FCC. So last week at Stampede, we announced the signing of a memorandum of understanding that will actually bring RDAR into the Root development program to actually help inform the artificial intelligence, the large language model, as the terminology goes, to expand the database and the information that's available in Root today.
So what kind of information is in there right now? I guess FCC has put some in there from its perspective, and RDAR, you're a research-based organization looking to share the results of your research and make that convenient for producers?
That's right. FCC, developing Root, had gone to the internet and other sources of information to build out the Root database. Listeners today can actually access Root. You can go to, if you just search FCC and Root, it will bring up the FCC website, and you can actually use the system to engage in a chat with the Root system. So FCC's base to this point has been very broad. So if you search, for example, kochia, it will tell you a lot about the weed and the control. But it doesn't have the specifics to allow you to actually do a deep dive into what the producers need to know in their busy lives. Who can actually help me with controlling kochia? What resources are available for financing different approaches to combat kochia and to go deeper? So RDAR, we're about to celebrate our 5th anniversary of incorporation. We were founded in 2020. So we've actually funded over 500 research projects. So as the background to those research projects, the researchers and farmers have given us a great wealth of information. So our objective is to now upload the public forms of the research into Root and actually then allow the producers to make an inquiry into how to address specific problems. So we've heard that producers today, they don't want to learn, or they don't have time to learn a lot of complexities in terms of how do you input questions. So that's where the chat form of AI is really useful. If you're simplifying the front end, though, you need a lot of sophistication in the back end. And so RDAR's team of researchers and our research reports are going to help inform that particular aspect of the work. So you're going to be able to probe very deeply into questions. So example, Kelvin and I were chatting just before we were recording here. We were talking about problems that producers face at times of drought. And 3 or 4 years ago, we actually saw a herd of 50 animals die in northern Alberta because they were eating feed contaminated with nitrate. So RDAR commissioned a project to develop a producer-driven test or producer-usable test for nitrate contamination in feed. The work was done. It's available. We actually demonstrated it recently at one of our field days. But the information is not broadly available to producers. So today, or soon, I won't say today, a producer will be able to go in, put in, I'm concerned about nitrate poisoning in my livestock, and Root will spit out the information in terms of, okay, these are the tests which are available. Here's an expert who can help you. Here's the cost of the test. ROI is always important. And tell you actually how to go about with that testing process. So that's where we'd like to go with this. Given the depth of our research database, you'll be able to go in and ask questions on, for example, beneficial management practices. We also run the On-Farm Climate Action Fund, OFCAF, for the federal government. So they have a series of BMPs which producers can use for adjusting nitrate inputs, rotational grazing, cover cropping. You'll be able to delve into those BMPs and find out what would be available, what would be applicable in your particular area. But then what's more important, who can help fund me doing some of this work? Who can lower the barriers to adoption? The program actually will do it today to a limited point. They'll tell you where the funding sources are. And even better, there is the capacity in these systems to help you fill out the forms. As you know, filling out the forms is a chore. AI can really help take those tasks off your table.
Do you see other organizations, agencies, institutions coming on board and also having their data placed into this portal of information?
I think there is a real potential to do that. Certainly, having quality data is the key. And so that's where the curated form of the data that's uploaded is really essential. So RDAR, because we have our own data management system, is ideally placed to upload. If there are other agencies who can offer that similar qualified data, the system would be amenable to that. RDAR has an ongoing relationship with FCC, so that's where we actually stepped up early to help them with this particular initiative.
Okay, so is FCC taking the lead, though, in terms of operating it and maintaining it and kind of curating it, to use that word that you use?
Yeah, they are doing those roles, and that's actually one very important part of any AI or data-driven initiative in terms of where is the data stored. So FCC is a Canadian institution, data stored in Canada. We understand the data protection practices, so Google or other systems are not going to be scraping the data out of this system. You will require a relationship, Canadian relationship to access the data. So data security, data ownership, we're all looking at those as potential risks. And so FCC, being the curator of this, is going to help address those issues.
Okay. I think that also maybe is part of the answer to another question that came up was why not just put your information on the internet and let ChatGPT and Gemini and the mainstream AIs from the big tech companies find that information and convey it. But I guess that curation aspect is a differentiation of Root versus some of those mainstream AI platforms.
Yeah, I think many of us have tried ChatGPT and Copilot and the other systems. The validity of the answers you get is always requires some further due diligence, and so that's where Root actually is offering that security in terms of the answers you're getting have been viewed and vetted.
That's Kelvin Hepner talking to the Chief Executive Officer of RDAR, Dr. Mark Redmond. You can hear that entire interview at RealAgriculture.com. Well, hard to believe we're already out of time. If you have any feedback, send me an email, shaney@RealAgriculture.com. You can also call the RealAg feedback line, 855-776-6147. And give us an update on how your crops and livestock are making out. We'd love to hear from the audience out there. Thanks so much for getting real and getting connected with RealAg on the Weekend.